What's up guys, hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to show you 5 of my favorite guitar tones. These are the guitar tones that I use for all my live streams on Twitch, and it gives me a lot of coverage, and I'm going to break every single tone right down to the exact signal path so you can take little pieces or all of it if you like and apply it to your tones. So today we're going to check out 5 guitar tones. It consists of 3 really cool gain sounds which all complement each other in a nice way, and I've also got 2 really cool clean sounds as well. And like those gain sounds, the clean sounds also really complement each other. One's very sparkly and crystal-like, and the other's really gritty and a little bit nasty. And again, I'm going to take you through every single step of the way for each tone. But before we get started today, let me tell you about my guitar lesson website, schoolofmcrock.com. At School of McRock, I upload a brand new lesson every week, and we have a bunch of lessons already on there covering tapping, legato, theory courses, shred courses, the whole 9 yards. I also have a ton of amazing guest artist lessons on there as well, which is great because you get a different perspective on their approach to playing. And don't worry, these lessons are designed to go straight to the good stuff, so you don't need to sit 4-5 hours in front of a computer trolling through a course. Nobody's got time for that. But it's not just online lessons that make School of McRock a great place to get better at guitar. You can actually submit your video. So if you're struggling with a technique and you need some feedback to really get things dialed in, that's a great option, and I'll react to your video in the form of a lesson so other people can learn from that as well. We also have live Zoom masterclasses. We've done sweep picking and alternate picking, and everybody's had a blast and learned a bunch and had a good time whilst doing it. So check out schoolofmcrock.com, links in the description. For now, let's rip up some tones. Let's go. 5 different tones, 3 signal chains, and 1 MIDI controller. It sounds like a bad movie so far, but let me give you an overview of where the signal chain is routed to, and then we'll start breaking down each individual patch and tone and so forth. We'll go through everything. So first of all, coming out of the guitar, obviously a jack to jack. That goes into my wah. And there's a couple of effects that I like to have up front. So it doesn't matter if I'm on Overdrive 3, for example, or Overdrive 1. I always have wah and octaver available. So my guitar's going into the wah, which is a Dunlop 95Q, and then I'm going out from the wah into my octaver, which is the Boss OC5. And then I go into my tuner, because we always need to be in tune. And this is where it gets interesting. That signal that's flowing through the wah into the octaver into the tuner then hits the Boss LS2, which is a line selector. Now I have that set so it's just firing 1 in and 2 out permanently. So it's not really switching between lines. It's literally taking that 1 signal in and it's duplicating it out continuously. It's not like on or off or anything like that. 1 in, 2 out, and the switching is done in the software, which we'll get to in a bit. Now the Boss LS2 is just 2 outputs, right? But I want 3. And the reason I want 3 is I want another chain so I can use overdrive pedals on the front end. I want to, use things like the Horizon Devices Apex preamp. This is another favorite of mine, the new Neighbor overdrive pedal. This thing is great, and I highly encourage you to play around using overdrives in front of your plugins. So getting back to the lines going into the door. So my signal's going into the Boss LS2. It's then split into 2. One of those outputs is then duplicated with a little passive, a 1 and 2 out. There's no batteries. It's a very, very, very simple little box. But at this stage, I now have 3 chains of audio all doing the same thing, all just duplicating the original guitar sound going through the wah, octave, tuner, So it's essentially just split it into 3. If you guys know a 1 in 4 out box or 1 in 3 out audio box, definitely let me know. That might tidy things up a little bit more here. The first signal chain is then going into a precision drive. And I'm using that for the first 2 different overdrive sounds. So let's check out my first overdrive sound. It's based around the Neural DSP Granosphere. And I have the precision drive in front of this amp. So let me bring up the Ableton project here. You'll see the plugins that I'm using. I actually have 2 different plugins, and that's just in case I want to switch between the Pliny plugin and the Granosphere plugin. So for example, that's the Granosphere. And if I'm doing a live stream on Twitch, I could jump over to the Pliny sounds that I've dialed in if I want something that's just a little bit of a not as heavy output, or heavy sound rather, but for most of the time, I leave this one rocking the Granosphere, and it sounds great. Let me know if you want me to make some more packs for all of the Neural DSP plugins, because I've been dialing in a lot of different tones for a lot of their plugins. Do let me know if you'd like me to complete these packs off and just give you a little bit more coverage and make those available. Getting back to number 1. So this chain involves the precision drive by Horizon Devices. It's actually used pretty subtly, so if I turn that off, now I put it on, it just gives it that kick over the edge. I really like having the option of turning that precision drive off, because it's a great way of just getting another sound from the plugin. So the Granosphere to me sounds great. I've dialed this preset in over a number of months, and for the that heavy sort of lead, heavy rhythm stuff, that sounds really, really, really cool. I like that one a lot. One thing that I like to do though with a lot of my tones, and you'll see here, is I like to make sure that there's not too much bottom end, there's not too much top end, and little scoops that I find to my ears make nice little cuts in the sound. So as I play, you can see that all that low end, all that top end fizz, some of those lower mids. Oops, just delete it. There we go. You know, those kind of standard frequencies. there are little pockets of sort of sound that I've just cut into that to my ears make that sound a little bit better. You can experiment with that, but I would certainly suggest filtering out some of the low end and the extreme top ends from a lot of your sounds. Unless it's a super sparkly clean, then you might want more of that top end. But just kind of rolling off some of those frequencies often help your guitar tones to sit much better in an actual track. So after that, just things to control the levels, nothing too crazy. And often I do use just a built-in Ableton echo and reverb. The reason I like to use those reverb and delays is then I can just sort of replace the amp tones if I want a different sound. So for example, if I change to the Pliny, I don't need to worry about matching up the reverb and delays. I can literally just swap the actual amp stages over. But the Neural DSP reverbs and delays do sound great. So obviously if I made some packs, then I would absolutely use the built-in reverbs and delays. Whilst we have the delay and reverb up, let me just show you some typical settings. So one thing I like to do is you can see I have a little bit of the ducking on the actual echo. So when I play, that echo squashes down a little bit and it kind of makes your guitar tone sound a little bit more focused. If you do have ducking available in your delays and reverbs, I would definitely experiment with using those. And if you don't have that in your plugins, you can actually do some pretty cool stuff with sidechaining, which does a similar thing, but it just makes the routing a little bit more complicated in some instances. Another thing I'd really recommend you doing is filtering out some of the top end and some of the low end. So if I go a little bit extreme here, you hear that's gone really thin. But just having some kind of filter on the low end and the top end, if I turn that off pretty much, you hear that echo is very, very bright, and I kind of dull it down by filtering a lot of that top end out of it. So again, it gets it out the way, but it still fills a space. So when you're playing, it's there, it's filling a space, but it's not cluttering up the mix. So that's a cool thing to do. You can see right here on the reverb, I'm also doing that as well, where I'm filtering out some of that low end, some of the top end. So again, even though the reverb time is quite high, it's not cluttering up everything. So that's a very, very common thing that I do with a lot of my sounds. So that is my default high gain sound. It's based around the Neural DSP Granosphere. It's a really, really cool sounding plugin. Definitely check that one out. But let's move on to my second overdrive sound. So this is my swamped out overdrive sound, and I often use this sound in breakdowns of tracks. So if I'm doing a live stream and I'm jamming around some McRocklin and Hutch stuff, often a lot of the tracks will have at some point a breakdown, and having that really kind of ambient overdrive sound really helps those parts to sit nicely in the mix at that stage of the track. At the same time though, I kind of wanted something that was a little bit more cutting, a little bit of a brighter sound. And also, as you heard with this sound, I'm using the expression pedal, one of the Boss EV pedals, and that is going into the balanced input of the Blackstar Live Logic. So inside Ableton, I can assign that as a controller. And what I am controlling on this sound is the Gojira. So every time I go up and down, so I really do like this plugin. I actually did release a preset pack for this plugin. It sounded so good. Some fantastic sounding reverbs, delays, EQs, the whole 9 yards. Really great sounding plugin. So with this guy, basically it is there primarily to do that really swamped out overdrive sound, and I'm actually using again Ableton to do that reverb. You could totally do that inside the Neural DSP plugin just by turning the wet dry up. If I turn that reverb off, and also the sound is designed to be a little bit thinner, a little bit more cutting, but at the same time, when you put all the reverb on, it kind of really creates a nice wash of like ambient solo lead lines. I highly recommend getting an expression pedal because you can assign lots of fun stuff to those expression pedals. It's a great way of kind of just giving you that real-time control, because a lot of the time, you know, you don't want to be doing this stuff with a mouse. It's just not intuitive, it's not fun, you know? You want to kind of do all that with your foot, right? That's why I also like using the Blackstar Live Logic, because it gives me that control over my sounds in the DAW, but it's still, I was going to say hands-on, but it's actually foot-on. So when you're ripping and you're playing, you can jump between all these different sounds. Again, I have an EQ going after that, and you can see I still have those shaves of the top end and the bottom end happening, but in this time I also have a little bit of a bump to give me that little bit of extra brightness. You hear that? So each sound you might need to EQ slightly different to taste, whatever works for you. And the input that's going into this swamped out reverb Gojira channel is going via the precision drive. So if I wanted to, I could turn that precision drive off. Now there's one other thing that's a bit magical about this Gojira swamped out reverb sound that I turn on sometimes, and that is the very cool feedback generator plugin by Blue Cat Audio. So every time you hear this, that magic is done by this plugin. So if I turn that off, it is like magic. And the really cool thing is, right there I have it on second order harmonics. You can change that to be first and really high, really low harmonics, but often I use the second one, but here it is with the first order harmonics. So it kind of just feels like the note is just ringing out even longer. Really, really cool. Subharmonics. I've never tried that one actually. It's quite interesting. It kind of feels like it blends and goes down an octave. Third order harmonics. Really cool, and you can change the fade in and the fade out time and stuff like that. Such an awesome plugin, that one. I'll leave a discount code for this one in the description below, so if you want to pick up a copy for yourself and get yourself a nice discount, yeah, I'll leave that down below. All right, moving on to Overdrive number 3. It's a little bit less aggressive, it's a little bit more rounded sounding, so if I play things like New Beginnings tracks, it's a little bit more plexi-like, it's a little bit spongy, and I really like having that contrast between the Granosphere just being a little bit harder, a little bit more aggressive, and then this kind of pedal amp sound, it's a little bit more warmer, a little bit more vintage sounding. It's just nice to have that balance. So I'm using the Fortin Cali for this particular platform amp. Here's how it sounds without the Friedman BOD overdrive pedal. Let me put that BOD on. With splits, the sound also sounds really good. real twangy thing going on. It's a really, really cool sound. I like this one a lot. And like I say, it's a great way of kind of introducing other flavors into your tone, because, you know, if you're feeling like you just want a totally different vibe, you can just swap out that overdrive channel by changing the overdrive pedal, and there you go. You know, you don't need to go crazy, you're playing around with the tone, just smash that overdrive pedal straight into the chain, and it's a really, really nice way of just changing things up. I'm doing some interesting things with the EQ though, so let me show you what's going down with that. So first of all, I have made a bunch of different platform presets for the 14 Cali. Here's how they sound in back to back. Go number 2. A little bit more aggressive. The third one is probably the most rounded one and most versatile. So again, do let me know if these presets are something that you would like, and I'll add some more to them and make it a complete download package. Okay, so with this sound, I actually have a little bit of EQ before the amp stage and then after the amp stage. Now the reason for that is the first EQ right here before the amp, this is actually taming some of the top end, because sometimes with certain overdrive pedals you get that kind of little bit of sort of harshness coming through on the top. Not when you're playing, but when it's just like that. Now obviously when you're playing that goes away, but I just wanted to smooth a little bit of that out of the sound before it hits the amp block. And it doesn't actually make the sound duller or less bright or anything like that. It just kind of gets rid of some of the noise before it hits the Cali amp stage. So that's one thing that I'm doing. I'll put that back on. The other thing is I actually have a little bit of a scoop, because I'm chugging on B minor all the time during streams. It's just a thing that we do. We get hyped up and we just go nuts on B. And I actually found the frequency. And I just kind of tamed it down just so it wasn't as woolly. It's a subtle thing. It's like, it's only by 2.5 dB. But it literally just kind of stops it sounding woolly on that frequency. So 2 EQs before the Cali, one to tame the B minor chug, one to dial out some of the fizz from the top end, and a little standard gate. And the other EQ is then after the Cali. And again, that gets rid of the excess low end, the excess top end, and just shapes the overall sound to how I want it. In this case, I wanted a bit of a broader mid-range sound, so here we go. So I've kind of boosted that frequency a little bit and then made the cut after it just to kind of shape it up a little bit. Now, one other thing I like to use sometimes is this stereo, I don't know if it's a stereo enhancer or just kind of creates stereo, but now and again, if I want to just have like a really wide guitar tone on Shred Club on my Twitch streams, really here that kind of pushes it out wide. Let's turn that off. Yeah, so that it's a nice option. I don't generally like, you know, kind of big chorusy sounds and stuff like that for high gain sounds, but it's a good option to have. And there's one final thing right at the end of the chain, which is the special effects button. So that is assigned to number 6 on my Live Logic. So every time I stamp on this momentary button, every every single channel has the option of running through that. So even the swampy reverbs, the Granosphere, they all have the option of running through that. Now what I'm using to do that is actually an auto panner, but instead of having it spinning left and right, it's basically auto panning in the center. That's the party trick sound. Alright, so clean sounds. Let me show you my first clean sound, the gritty clean, and then we'll finish out with the space dust sound. So the first clean sound is often set because all of these delays are always in time with the tracks that I'm jamming along to on stream. So like the dotted eighth would always be in time. So if I start a track and it's 130 BPM, the delay would just speed up to 130 BPM. Because on Shred Club, there's a lot of times where I'll have a brand new track that maybe McRocklin Hutch is working on, or a member's submitted their backing track. You know, there's a lot of situations where I'll just be jamming over tracks for the first time on stream. And sometimes you just kind of need to lock into a groove a bit. And I find the dotted eighth with a clean sound, it's a good way of kind of just feeling things out a little bit. Now, I am using a chain that has the Bogner Hollow on, and that really is a great compressor pedal. So if I turn that off, and back on, you can really hear that I'm using it to push the clean tone into a little bit of saturation. And whilst by itself, it sounds like it's getting a little bit distorted, when you hear that alongside a track, it actually really helps to make the cleans cut through. So to help boost that signal a little bit further, you can see right here, I've just added a utility, and that literally is adding 5 dB of gain. So what that's doing is it's actually boosting the signal before it hits the Cali. It's a really kind of gritty clean, so when you really dig into the strings, it's a really, really nice, versatile clean sound because it's almost low gain, but when you go back to single note stuff with the delay on, it actually sits nicely as a clean sound. But for now, let's move on to the space dust sound. So well until that F note just creeped in and ruined everything. So the first thing that a lot of people ask when they hear that sound is, what is that shimmer? It's actually not a shimmer. Let me show you the plugin. It's called Crystallizer by Sound Toys, and here it is with it on. The delays higher. So for example, if I make that fifths, instead of an octave higher, to kind of gel it all together, after the crystallizer, I have another compressor, which is really kind of helping to gel those crystal, well, pitched echoes together. And then I have another standard echo and a standard reverb just going after those plugins, again, just to contribute to that ambience. So if I turn the reverb and delay off, so it's completely dry, and then put that crystallizer on, you'll get to hear it nicely isolated then. Some really cool things, like play around with the recycle. The size of the slice. Do some pretty funky stuff, but I kind of leave it like that. Put the compressor on afterwards, reverb and delay after that. And that kind of blends it. It makes it a little bit more subtle. It's not this overpowering pitch thing going absolutely crazy. And that is what I use as my shimmer tone. Now, it just so happens that the Corey Wong plugin, which is what I'm using for this clean, actually also has an amazing shimmer tone. And just to give you an idea, this tone actually is using a lot of compression because I'm using the Bogner Hollow for the input into this channel. And then I'm also using the compressor that is included in the Corey Wong. And then I have another compressor after the crystallizer plugin. So that's 3 amounts of compression, all just squashing in slightly different ways. This is an amazing sounding plugin, and for those sparkly cleans and stuff, it's unbeatable in my opinion. It's really, really good. So to make all of these sounds and tones feel like mega presets, if you like, that's where the Blackstart Live Logic comes in. So I can just click a button, and I have it 1 through 5 is basically 5 different tones, starting up with gain, clean, clean 2, and then my pedal platform channel, and then 6, my special effects. Now you can see on screen, as I push those different buttons, it's going through a chain selector macro. If you want to get that geeky on things, do let me know. But I think for now, we'll stop at this point. Otherwise, this video is going to be like 3 hours long. So guys, if you've made it right to the end of this video, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button if you got some value out of it. And if you want to ask any questions, obviously fire them into the comments below. But consider joining me over on Discord. I'm there all the time, and we actually have some channels dedicated to discussing all of this stuff. It's a great guitar community. So that's my Discord channel. Link for that will be down below, as well as the link to School of McRock. For now, you guys take care, and I'll see you on the next video. Take it easy. Bye.